With Senua's Saga Hellblade II's development well underway, we want to take you behind the scenes of how we're making the next chapter in Senua's story, and just as importantly, why we take the approach we do. Just like with Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, we want to take you on our development journey with us.
We had our initial trip planned and ready to go, all specced out, tickets bought, hotels booked, and then the pandemic hit, so that basically scuppered that. We needed to kind of find another way to help us out in the meantime. Initially, we'd been in contact with a photographer and guide out in Iceland called Chris Lund, who had helped us out with the initial location scouting, who had guided us around on our very first trip a few years ago.
I'm Christopher Lund. I'm an Icelandic landscape photographer based in Reykjavik, Iceland. What's unique about Iceland is that you have a lot of variation in landscapes and you don't have to travel very far. Like you have this in other countries, but you have to sometimes travel days to be in something completely different. Here you can be shooting on a black beach on a very barren landscape, and then you drive for half an hour and it's lush and green and dramatic waterfalls. This is the reason for Iceland being chosen for the game. A lot of my work is me just looking over weather charts and trying to maximize, the shooting time at each location. A lot of these maps are quite large scale, so the drone needs to go and it has like a 25-minute battery life, and then it has to land and have to change the batteries. And some of these missions are 3 battery switches over an hour of shooting, and the light can change in that time frame quite often. Another factor is strong wind. You can't fly in a very strong wind, so that could also be an issue, and of course rain is a no-go. What I've seen from the development of the game is amazing. Just the quality of the graphics and how lifelike it is.
We spent a lot of time working with him like that remotely, which actually worked out fantastically because he's on tap, he's right there. If we want to go and recapture somewhere else or pick out some other details, we can just give him our flight plans for the drone-based photogrammetry, give him detailed breakdowns of what the things we want scanning, and we could send him out and do our bidding for us.
Eventually, the world returned to some kind of normality. Our team could work in our studio again, and a much anticipated visit to Iceland could be scheduled.
We realised that we needed to go kind of bigger, so we basically completely replanned the trip from scratch. We added 21 locations, 2,500 kilometres worth of travel over 11 days, which was pretty ambitious, but we kind of felt that we needed to sort of cram it in as much as possible. We'd been waiting all this time, so we just needed to go out there and kind of hit it as hard as we could. I'd been lucky enough to previously been out, so kind of felt like I was always banging on about what it's like to be there. And with the other guys in the environment art team, they had to kind of take my word for it. It was essential that they come and kind of experienced it too. If anything, it's quite exciting to kind of go, look, this is how it feels. This is what it feels like to stand on the edge of this crazy looking rock face or this cliff kind of thing. Getting the guys out there to see it in the flesh is like, takes us back to the point about reference. It's about, there's only so much you can get from a photo. It was so valuable to have us all on the same page, we're all singing from the same hymn sheet.
Of course, our work to realise Iceland was based on ground truth reference from modern day. It's important that along with capturing the landscapes, we also bring to life the reality of Iceland as it was in the 10th century.
So outside of visiting Iceland and experiencing the locations, we knew that we wanted to be faithful to the other things that we put in it. So once you start thinking about like the structures and the man-made things that are going to be in the game, we want to approach those in the same way as we've approached the environment itself. Again, reference is key to this. We don't want to make what we think it looks like. We want to get as much reference gathering as possible and be as faithful to what the real thing would have looked like. When we were looking at some of the turf houses, which are the technique they used to use to build their houses, so it's like a timber frame cladded in lumps of earth and which had like kind of grass growing on and things like that. You spend a lot of time dissecting that, watching videos on people building them, trying to break it down into its component parts and being as faithful to that as possible. Similarly, for things that we knew we wanted to make, like various kind of trinkets or idols or different smaller props and things like that, we decided to see if we could make those by hand and then scan those, sticking faithfully to this idea that photogrammetry gives you that extra added level of detail and believability. That led us to set up some small-scale photogrammetry in the studio, which we've got, and we use as much as we possibly can, scanning things like bones and totem poles that have been carved by ourselves. The level of realism that we're aiming for will really help with the immersion of the experience. It kind of stops you from questioning the space you're in if we are using all of this kind of reference and these scanned items and things like that. As an environment artist working on this project, it's kind of the project that I've always wanted to make. And you could probably say the same thing for the other guys as well. It's having that ability to recreate something and then putting a slight spin on it yourself. And it's being truthful to the reference, which is quite exciting.
At the heart of Hellblade is our ambition
to continue on.
All the grief, all the rage, all the fear, everything I've seen, everything I've done.
While this scene is relatively simple, the scale and complexity of our performance capture has multiplied to meet our creative ambitions on Hellblade II.
We shot the first Hellblade in the boardroom of our old studio. It was very MacGyvered together. In the new studio, we have a custom-built mocap space, which has pretty much everything we could have dreamed of. We've got projectors, so we can recreate sets on the ground if we need to. We've got loads of props that we have available to us at any time, so we can build sets.
For freedom. So it's very soundproofed. It's nearly a full soundstage. But these points here allow us to mount a piece of truss to the floor, and then we can get onto the truss on the ceiling, which can carry an insane amount of weight. So if we've got a point here and a point up on the ceiling, we can do almost any kind of rigging build. We can hang things from the ceiling. We can rig up wire poles, any kind of rope work that we might need. This is really useful if you've got big jumps or swimming, that kind of thing. You can get performers up off the floor and give them the freedom to move around the space unencumbered by the floor.
With our setup, we can push even further on our ambition of bringing through as much of our actors' performances as possible into the game, even down to the most nuanced of movements.
And just a part of the whole production.
Alongside head-mounted and motion capture cameras, we're taking a filmic approach to our cinematics with a bespoke virtual camera setup.
We've got Bosch's camera in here. It gets timecode jam here, and we track this crown in relation to this offset marker here so that we can track the point of the lens, and that allows us to faithfully track the camera's lens and look throughout the scene.
With performance capture being at the heart of our character movement, our props and staging had to facilitate our vision.
I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there is going to be a boat in the game. That boat will have several characters on board. We wanted to be able to capture the motion of a boat across multiple characters simultaneously, and we, for the first time, had the space to be able to construct a proper rig for this. So we had a platform which could be moved in any number of ways to create that kind of pitch and yaw and roll that you would get on the ocean. And we got our actors up onto this boat and captured scene with high waves and a storm, and we got incredible data from it. Really, really amazing.
Being able to do that in our own basement is really important for how quickly we want to iterate on that data and get it into engine and see what it looks like. You know, we can always come back and do things again, and we don't have to worry about scheduling or finding performers or anything like that you might need to worry about in a normal kind of third-party shoot.
The most important part of my role is to make sure that story gets told, and having these wonderful actors we're working with bring their talents to bear on these characters has been such an amazing experience.
In Senua's Saga Hellblade II, we want you to believe in our cast of characters by capturing the likeness of real actors and handcrafting costumes using traditional techniques. we'll achieve a level of realism that will further immerse you in our story. This is no simple task and has seen us push the boundaries of realism in video game characters, starting with Senua.
My name is Dan Crossland and I am the character art director here at Ninja Theory. A character like Senua is comprised of many components such as anatomy scans, facial scans and rigs, physical costume creation, hair and makeup creation. Most elements are created physically so that it gives us a good blueprint and ground truth model that we can digitize later.
Much like film and TV, we're now creating real-life costumes that are scanned into the game. These are crafted with expert costume designers, using traditional materials and techniques accurate to the time period, to achieve a level of realism and detail that simply wouldn't be possible using purely digital techniques.
From the first game, I didn't really feel like I recognized myself that much because I'm wearing all this face paint and dreadlocks and costume, and that's not how I walk around in real life. And also because the costume was modeled, it wasn't physically made, so I never actually got to wear it. Whereas this time around for Saga, we're actually physically making the costume, doing the hair, doing the makeup, so I'm getting way more attached to the character and I can walk around in the costume, and like it's really, really cool.
The main reason to create a costume physically is so that we can scan the actor playing the character within the costume. We want the costume to fit the body correctly and have the weighting and compression in the right places. And we want to feel the density of those fabrics and how they fold and interact when in movement. We wanted the clothing for Senua to be functional and support her journey. As a player, you want to get behind her trials and key moments to believe in her struggle.
Dan would give me an initial drawing. Then we would have a meeting about breaking it down, you know, so he usually just gives me sort of like one angle, you know, so sometimes I'm not aware of what's on the back, sides and stuff like this. So we'll break down what the costume is, how many pieces is in there. Then I'll go away and I make a toile, so that's just like a mock version, starting point basically. Then we'll do one fitting. Things come to life when we start using the materials that he's after. Then from there, I will I'll go straight into making the initial costume. We have one last fitting, and then from there, it's like breakdown mode. So this is the most exciting bit before we go to scan. We'll break the costume down, meaning basically we're just making it look old and worn and sort of, you know, as that's been in a fight, or create these sort of like erosion lines, and also work on the colour a little bit more. In my studios, there are a lot of other artists, so I mean, to take the opportunity to work with other designers is sort of a given, really. I reached out to a weaver at my workshop called Francesca Miotti. She created the most beautiful woven. She was using hemp, jute and nettle. It's on the side panels of Mel's outfit, and it is just stunning. It's so beautiful to work with as well.
When creating Senua's hair for Hellblade II, we did various shoots where we tried to use Mel's hair, but in the end we had to mat it up, and we chose to add on an air weave, which we added ash and pigment to.
We're using all sorts of like putty and paste and maybe some dirt as well, so charcoals, to create texture. And then from that, we sort of get a little bit closer to the next session of creating the hair.
In Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, we partnered with our friends at 3 Lateral to bring Senua to life. It was natural then that we would rekindle this partnership to explore just how far we could push Senua's believability once again.
The idea was to push the frontiers of digital humans and to bring them as close as possible to photorealism, while also experimenting or exploring new cinematic techniques. The closer we reach photorealism, the deeper we go into the science of human anatomy, the science of of physics, the science of simulation, and even the science of human perception. Just to illustrate, a few years back when we were scanning Melina, we captured a gigabyte or so of data in order to build her digital replica. Nowadays, we are capturing terabytes of data for every minute we're recording Melina within the scanning facility.
When we look to create a digital double character, we need two things: great data and amazing runtime systems to recreate the performance from the stage. The way we go about this is to use 4D scanning. You can think about 4D scanning as an extension of 3D scanning. 3D scanning involves taking a large number of photos of an actor, all taken simultaneously from a variety of angles. Using this data, we can reconstruct a very accurate 3D model of the actor, using a process called photogrammetry. Capturing 4D data involves the same process, but instead of photos, we use video. Once we have all this data, we can use it to create a set of blend shapes, a way of deforming the underlying mesh in a section of the face, and also a machine learning system that we can use at runtime to produce an incredibly realistic result. We use 3Lateral for this work because they're world leaders in creating real-time digital doubles, and we have a fantastic, long-standing relationship with them.
Our focus on crafting believability, as you've seen with Senua, will be extended to our principal cast in Senua's Saga, Hellblade II. Doing so takes a lot of hard work, problem solving and time, but the reward is the connection that we hope you will build with our characters.
We're trying to immerse the player in Senua's world, and part of that is trying to create all aspects of the game so that they are believable. Making them in real life takes a lot more effort, for sure, but it hopefully makes everything more real for the player. To me, Senua's story in many ways is relatable to us now more than ever. She's a complex character with many layers, and for me, being able to work on a character like Senua is both a challenge but greatly rewarding, especially when you see how the entire team brings her story to life.
Hellblade ultimately.
And then from that point onward, we're introducing some more fictional elements.
Although we've got a bigger budget for Saga and a lot more resource, we've got brand new studio, new mocap space, I think we're still trying to come up with creative ways of doing things. We're not just relying on, we've got more people and more budget. It's how do we do something with the resources we now have that is meaningful and isn't just a bigger, better version. We want to keep that philosophy from how we made the first game moving into this one.
To me, Saga is everything. It's defining that magic.
Signed, perf cut, take 13.
I see through your darkness now. I see through your lies. I will show them how to see as I do. I will not appease your gods. I will destroy them.
Senua finds a unique courage to keep pushing forwards on her quest, no matter what. She sees the world differently to those around her and faces challenges others would avoid. When driven so strongly by one powerful purpose, she will do anything to rid the world of the darkness. This is her life's mission, and she will not stop until she fulfills her quest.
My name is Eddie, and I have lived with psychosis for most of my life. To me, psychosis means living in a different reality, reality that isn't shared with other people. Often living with psychosis is dark and miserable. While experiencing psychosis, I've got to hear the voice of God, the opposite, seen and spoken with angels, and been to hell itself. Recovery college and peer support really did turn my life around. I thought I would never get better, and yet here I am. The things that Senua experiences in Hellblade are very similar to some of my own experiences. She lives in a reality that other people might find hard to understand. She sees significance in symbols, in meeting people, in all sorts of things that are going on around her. Senua is experiencing an altered state of reality which would be very hard to understand without having experienced it yourself or playing Hellblade.
Lost souls who fought through hell to find us.
You were lost. Not anymore.
Are you ready for what you will find here?
It's difficult saying that it's an illness, that it's not real. Of course, to me, it is. And of course, to Senua, it is. And that's what's driving her to do these amazing feats of courage, to overcome pain and exhaustion, to do what she knows she must.
All the fear, everything I've seen, everything I've done has led me to this place.
We've come so far, not far enough. Say it. You are ready. Tell them.
In Senua's Saga Hellblade II, we tell the second part of the story of Senua, a Celtic warrior who, like Eddie, has experiences of psychosis, seeing the world in a unique way and existing in a reality unshared by others. At a surface level, this manifests for Senua in seeing things that others don't, hearing things that others don't, and having unique beliefs about the world.
My name's Paul Fletcher. I'm a psychiatrist and a professor of neuroscience at the University of Cambridge, and I've been working with the Ninja Theory team on Hellblade and other projects for several years now. I am a clinical doctor, but have also added research and teaching to my role. And in all three areas, I'm especially interested in the human brain and how it strives to make sense of the world, which is complex and changing all the time.
The lake, like a mirror. You can see the
Senua, like many people, experiences psychosis. Now, psychosis is not a diagnosis, although it is associated with a number of medical and psychiatric conditions. But ultimately, it's a loose description of a shift in one's experience of reality.
What are you doing?
Screams of the dead.
There's something here. I need to find out what it is.
They are.
A person with psychosis might experience changes in their perceptions and their beliefs. For example, they might see or hear things that other people can't. And they might come to believe things that are quite uncharacteristic for them. For example, they might feel that somebody, perhaps somebody even very close to them, is intent on trying to harm them. Now, it's very important to remember that this is not just a vague feeling or an imagination. To the person, it feels like their reality, just as everything around me feels like my reality to me. I, like many people, feel that in order to even begin to understand psychosis, we have to start with thinking about how the brain works in general, how it makes sense of the world around it. And when we do that, we're repeatedly confronted with evidence that actually it doesn't just rely on the evidence of our senses, but it actually relies on what it already knows, on its predictions, its anticipations, and its expectations.
Your voices.
Now that might seem like a defect. After all, why would we want to rely on what we already know rather than what the world is telling us? But if we did act simply as passive receivers, we would be completely swamped. We'd be like a newborn infant trying to make sense of the colours and shapes without any way of having a framework to try and understand those colours and shapes. Our senses are bombarded with information from the world that's rapid, it's intensive, it is noisy, ambiguous, unreliable. And if we were to try and make sense of that without imposing patterns and expectations, then it would be like trying to assemble a multi-dimensional jigsaw without knowing what the picture was on the box. Many of us think that the brain ultimately is an organ that makes predictions. It craves patterns and associations in order to make sense of the world. And without that, we are confronted with a feeling of uncertainty, of anxiety, of distress, even of fear.
They're calling. Something is drawing.
Where do these predictions come from? Many of them are actually embedded in the structure of our brain, probably wired there by evolution. Many of them come from our earliest experiences as babies, trying to make sense of this new world that we're born into. Many come from our early childhood experiences, from what we learn from others and how we interact with others, from our parents, our teachers, our friends. We all have a feeling that we're directly in contact with an objective reality, but it's probably the case that what we experience as our constructed model of the world is a blend of the evidence of our senses, but also what we are predicting or expecting from the world. So this blend exists in a very fine and delicate balance, and the weighting of that balance probably varies a great deal across different individuals. But crucially, this balance is what determines how we experience and interpret and act upon the world. And some of them are embedded in shared experiences with others, our society, our culture, our arts, even our religions and our mythologies. So for the most part, this works very well for us and enables us to make sense of the world, but it's also, being a delicate balance, it can be shifted, and it's very easy, even under the most normal day-to-day circumstances, to deviate from objective reality. A good example of this is the hollow mask illusion. All of us are familiar with a mask. We know that it depicts a face and that the inside is hollow. But when we see the mask rotating round and we see the hollow side, there is a deeper prediction, probably embedded in our brain, that facial features tend not to be hollow, that they stick out. And this deeper prediction can override our knowledge that the mask is hollow and make us actually perceive the face as sticking out at us. Despite what we know, the deeper predictions will override this. So for me and many in my field, perceptual illusions like this, which are very common, are really interesting because they tell us something fundamentally about how the brain is making sense of reality using its predictions. But more than that, for me, it's very interesting because it begins to give us a sense of how psychosis might begin to emerge. Psychosis is this experience of an altered internal construction of one's reality. And it seems feasible that this is dependent upon this balance I've talked about between predictions and evidence. And it is probably the case that some people tend to weight their predictions more heavily. This, in many circumstances, is advantageous because it means that they can discern patterns and associations that perhaps other people can't. But if that balance was shifted further by different circumstances, then it may well be that they begin to construct a reality that doesn't accord with the world around them. What might cause that shift? Well, a number of things. It could be caused by stress, sleep deprivation. It could be caused by illness, neurochemical disturbances. It's also the case that our experience will change how we predict things. So a very profound experience, for example, of trauma, could powerfully change the way in which we make predictions about the world and shift us from this delicate balance into a state of psychosis. In the case of Senua, we know that from an early age she was able to discern patterns and associations that perhaps other people couldn't. And on top of that, her childhood and adolescence had a number of traumas in it. Her father was abusive and he accused her of being the cause of evil and darkness. Her mother, who had the same capabilities as she did, was actually sacrificed for the same reason. And in addition, her village was attacked by Vikings and her lover was brutally killed. And it's possible that all of these traumas would act on her natural tendencies to topple her into this psychotic experience that is depicted in Hellblade.
With every defeat, the dark rot will grow and soon it will take her soul.
In Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, we find Senua discovering and understanding her experiences. They're relatively new to her, and the pain and torment feels at its most acute. Having travelled to a new place, with a mind full of her trauma and truth stories of the Vikings, she embarks on a journey of coming to terms with what has happened in her life. Ultimately, rather than finding the unachievable certainty of rescuing Dillion, she achieves certainty in the realization that Dillion is gone forever. She learns to accept his death, and in turn, her experiences of psychosis.
Even in darkness, the wonder and the beauty of this world never leaves us. It is always there, waiting to...
In Senua's Saga, we find Senua at a different place on her physical and mental journey. Empowered with the sense that she has overcome her own darkness, she's now compelled to follow a new quest, to save her people from that same darkness.
You smell their fear. He's here. Death is coming. Look at the bones. Death is coming. Look at the bones. That's going to be you. That's going to be everyone.
In Sacrifice, Senua's psychosis is acute and all-consuming. She is preoccupied and absorbed by her experiences. To some extent, she is enveloped and enslaved by the darkness. She cannot ignore her voices and visions. She's totally committed to the quest within her altered reality. In Saga, there has been some resolution to this. There's no miracle recovery. She still experiences the voices and visions. She still has a changed reality. But the balance of power has shifted. She is the one who is able to be in control. She's able to resist and challenge the voices. She's able to make decisions that much more clearly reflect her own goals.
Senua, would you give your life for these outsiders?
In my darkest hour, it was an outsider who saved me.
And in addition, in Saga, she is able to encompass the reality of others. She sees them for the constructions that they are, and she is able to interact with them. And I think that's a very powerful change and a very important area to explore.
They have lost everything.
In Saga, we've had the opportunity to explore the next phase of Senua's mental health journey. One where she's come to a place of understanding, but where she and us as creators have new challenges to overcome. Where Senua's belief system will clash with that of others. Her experiences will play out in the presence of people who don't share her perspective. And where she feels a new sense of power in being chosen for the quest, but also a new weakness, bowing underneath the weight of responsibility that sits on her shoulders.
In Saga, we have once again utilized binaural audio to bring Senua's voices to life. Her furies still travel with her, but their tone has changed this time. She continues to be haunted by her father, and she starts to feel the audio presence of Icelandic myth infecting her mind.
That scream, that voice. Something dark, Senua. You need to go up there. Don't let them see you coming. You need to find out. Don't let the monsters find you. You can do this, Senua.
To hear the world as Senua does, we spend time with people with lived experiences of psychosis, and also with Paul Fletcher. This made a strong basis of what it is to hear voices, what they say, how they sound, how they change or react to external stimulus. And this paired with all we learned from the first game, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, led us to create Senua's own sonic version of reality. To me, it's a privilege to sit in a room to play our game, and as we progress, hear their comments, thoughts and suggestions. Each one provides a different perspective, and I find especially inspiring and humbling to hear from Eddie his own experiences. Especially, I find he has a way of putting very complex emotions, situations, in a very simple yet poetic way, and it's really inspiring for me when I'm thinking in Senua's journey. We use binaural audio to bring 3D space in the headphones. This allows to experience the voice hearing and other sounds with a physical sense. Also extremely important is the performance of the voices, and for that we have been collaborating with Helen and Abby, our Furies. They are the most prominent voices of Senua. The way we perform is important as well, allowing for freedom, movement, creative input from Helen and Abby, and also important to have with them conversation and spend time talking about the journey of our character. There is a lot of time gone into experimentation, so every sound in the game is connected in some way with the emotion that Senua is experiencing as she travels through Iceland, from the sounds of the nature to some of the musical moments.
A sign.
Beyond of its uniqueness or not, I find that for me, something extremely important is to create a connection beyond the game. So in understanding Senua's own reality and going on a journey with her, I hope our players will understand better how people experience reality different, and in doing so, I feel we break those walls that keep us distant and lonely.
My brothers used to come here to practice fighting. Sneak out. Follow them.
For Saga, in order to bring Senua's experiences of hallucinations to life, it was very important for us to listen to people's real lived experiences. It was then a case of thinking about how Senua's world and reality might look when faced with these types of examples. This would have been impossible without Paul Fletcher and amazing people like Eddie and Kathy, who've been so open and honest about what they have been and do go through on a day-to-day basis. I think it takes real strength to be able to talk about such personal things to a new group of people. On the visual side, we have lent into things like repeating fractal geometry shapes, cymatic patterns, with lighting and post-processing changes to all help reflect the current feelings of Senua. And hopefully, when combined with the audio and gameplay, the player will get a sense of what we are aiming to achieve.
Dying right before your eyes, just like before. No, this cannot happen again. You couldn't do anything. We have to stop it happening. Face it. You need to face it. Focus. You need to look at it.
In Sacrifice, we saw a story of Senua's suffering at the hands of her experiences. In Saga, we're telling a more nuanced story of the next step on her journey. One where she has found a greater balance, but where her experiences are just as strong. Where rather than being a victim to her experiences of psychosis, she is driven by them, on a path that only she sees.
Bringing sin with you. The gods cannot be killed.
One thing that I find very exciting in Saga is that there's an attempt to explore something that is really neglected in my field, which is the experience of a dual reality that some people have. People who have had Senua's types of experience have spoken to me about this feeling that they have their own reality, but they also recognize the reality that others experience, and it can be very confusing, it can be disorientating. And it's exciting to me that the game contains an explicit attempt to portray this experience of dual realities, and I think it'll be very interesting to see how people respond to that.
It's amazing what has been done and what's been portrayed. I think it's really difficult to turn words into what other people might be seeing, but I think I'm always blown away by what Ninja Theory come up with for their games, and I'm really stunned at the quality of the things that she sees and the sound of the voices that she has. I think they're pretty realistic.
She's getting closer.
Yes, she can feel it.
I hope that the game will help people who maybe don't understand psychosis or don't know very much about it to start with. I think by experiencing some of what they will do in the game, I think it brings to life a little bit of what it's like to have psychosis, and I think hopefully people will learn from it.
Now I'm working as a peer support worker, and what that means is that in my case, in the job that I have in my role, it means that I go to see my people, to see my peers. We talk about how things have been. The way that Hellblade has captured the experience of psychosis is nothing like I've ever seen before, in terms of its realism, in terms of its fairness to people like me.
Hi, I'm Dom Matthews, studio head here at Ninja Theory in Cambridge, UK. We're now in the final months of development on Senua Saga Hellblade II, and the team is working hard to bring you an unforgettable journey into Senua's unique world and her battle for survival, where we have once again combined high fidelity and immersive presentation with a shorter, narrative-led experience that focuses on the things that we really care about, and that we hope you care about too.
Do you see how small you are? Do you see how the pitiless world stamps you down?
Senua is back with a new quest. She wants to stop the Vikings who raided her village right at their source, in Iceland. But not just her quest has changed. Senua herself has grown since the first Hellblade. She's made peace with her past and is no longer in such fear of her visions and voices. While the Furies are still her constant companions, she encounters new people along the way, some of which will value her unique perspective, and others who will reject it.
Little by little, this settlement became my tribe.
In the game, Senua arrives in 10th century Iceland on the trail of the Vikings who have been enslaving her people. In the story, we're trying to be as faithful to history as we can up to a point, establishing a solid framework and then building more surreal elements on top. Senua will face up to giants who have plunged the land into chaos, and which in turn has seen the rise of the Droiga, a violent threat that has swept through the settlements that she'll discover. Senua will make new enemies and also new allies who will come to see her unique perspective as a beacon of hope. And she'll discover, along with us, how this viewpoint can have its advantages.
Senua is a Celtic warrior who experiences psychosis, seeing things that other people don't, hearing voices, and having unique beliefs about the world around her. To bring Senua's perspective of the world to life in a truthful way, we have once again worked closely with Professor Paul Fletcher at the University of Cambridge, as well as people with lived experience of psychosis.
What does that mean? What does that mean? It's terrifying.
Players will find themselves traversing beautiful and hostile environments, seeking answers from patterns and signs that Senua sees in her own unique way, and battling through encounters with enemies that will push Senua to her limits.
On Saga, we've taken everything to the next level. With a new motion capture space, a bigger stage team, a stunt crew and a new cast.
We spent a lot of time planning the motion capture shoots, thinking of what events would be good to bring into this fight. Like, how can we make this fight feel different from the previous fight? We have all new combat for the sequel. One of our key goals was the ability to actually tell a story throughout it. It does feel very different from the first game, but it's very brutal and you're very invested in it. Senua isn't a superhero. She's fighting for survival, and we want the player to feel her struggle in every step of her journey. We want the player to always feel like they just scraped through, just survived it.
Mel knows Senua better than anyone, better than I do. Her instincts are amazing, and she really doesn't need much help from me. On stage, our main focus is storytelling. So I get to watch the actors and see all the beautiful expressions on their faces, and then I have to wait a little while, and then I get to see that all again, in-game, in costume, on location, everything. It's a great experience, a great process.
Every discipline in the studio is unified in achieving a deep level of immersion to help suspend your disbelief and pull you into Senua's story. We were lucky enough to do a few reference gathering trips in Iceland. You have to be there. The sense of scale, everything is incredible. And you see a scene or you see a small section of the game and you're like, yeah, that works, that's amazing.
Senua experiences reality differently, and a part of this manifests in the voices she hears.
She will collapse. She will collapse.
These voices come to life through binaural audio, which provides a good representation of this type of auditory hallucinations. As we focus in immersion, binaural audio is perfect for this because through headphones, you surround yourself in a three-dimensional space. In the first game, we only applied to the voices that Senua listens in her head. In this game, through a spatial audio technology and some extra little things within the game, there is music that is binaural. Every single sound has the potential to be binaural, so everything is spatialized around you, and it's a very beautiful experience.
What will they do to her? What will we do to us?
Music is a strange language in the sense that it speaks to our emotions fast and deep. It's not only about quality, it's about personality. So when you listen to Hellblade, you know it's Hellblade. On the music, we are working with Heilung, which for me is a personal privilege because I really admire them. We feel their craft, their depth, their meaning in the music. It really connects with our game and elevates it to something really special. We are also working with a heavy metal singer, throat singers, and our very own Furies. They sing so beautiful, and we add that binaural touch of music. So this all creates a very immersive and a very special and unique experience.
Our mission here at Ninja Theory is to craft life-changing art with game-changing tech. And that's our aim in Senua Saga Hellblade II, is to not only see where Senua goes next, but to deliver something really meaningful for our players.
My hope is that they will really connect to Senua as a character, and even if they can't really relate to what she's going through, maybe they know someone that relates to that character and they can then understand that person better.
Well, I don't want to sound cheesy, but in a way I'm Senua, right? She exists and doesn't. It exists through all of our work, through every ninja. So we all are Senua, and we are creating this character that grows and grows and grows and grows and keep growing and keep changing. So that makes it real.
I'm so proud of the love, care and passion our team here at Ninja Theory are putting into Senua Saga Hellblade 2. Our hope is to not only create a game that is great to play, but to craft an experience that leaves you thinking and feeling. From our combat gameplay through to our action set pieces, from our cinematic scenes to our puzzle solving, everything is crafted in service of Senua's journey, a journey that you can embark on May 21st.